the expression from the music inspired me so much to take risks, and it inspired damn near the whole rap game.
Hello again, I'm Adam Unz. You may know me as the host of The Opus, and now I'm bringing my own show, The Spark Parade, to the Consequence Podcast Network. I speak with artists and creatives about the cultural artifacts that spark their personal interest and creativity, whether it's music, books, movies, video games, or any other kind of art.
I've never spoke about it in this amount of detail. I'm suddenly going, oh my God, I'm blowing my own mind here, Christ. It's actually a giant part of my life.
By talking about the things we love, we share and discover insights into our personality and the things that drive us.
It's just magic, really. I mean, frustrating, and it makes some people angry, but I don't think anyone's ever done anything like it.
I speak with people like Connor Oberst, Phoenix's Thomas Mars, Chris Gethard, Helen Hong, Adrian Young, and more, so their sparks of inspiration can start a fire in you.
I'm grateful for those who continue to put our history and who we are as a people in the forefront and make you see it.
Find the Spark Parade wherever you get your podcasts.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Back in the 90s, comedian Anna Valenzuela fell in love with punk and ska bands like Green Day, Operation Ivy, Bad Religion, Aquabats, Flogging Molly, and The Cramps. She began doing comedy in 2014 in the Orange County, Long Beach area, and by 2015 found herself involved in LA's roast battle scene. By the end of that year, she was tapped to be on Comedy Central's Roast Battle. While more recently she's moved away from the roasting scene, she's gotten involved with other DIY corners of comedy, like performing at Fest. And during her trips to Fest these past 3 years, she's enjoyed getting to see many punk and ska bands. We brought Anna on this week to see where her corners of comedy intersect with ska. Also be sure to check out her new special, Murder Puss, which will release on Brandy Posey's label, Burn This Records, in early 2024.
One of my favorite things about going to Fest is the friends you make at Fest, and Anna is one of those friends for me.
Oh.
I was introduced to Anna by a previous guest, Brandy Posey, at our show at the High Dive last year, and we've remained friends since.
Very cool. And now you brought her on this show to talk about ska.
I mean, I've said before that one of my favorite, like next to drummers, my other favorite guests, comedians.
Now, can you imagine if we ever had a comedian who is a former drummer? Wouldn't that be something?
What would that have been like? Hey, go listen to that Fred Armisen episode again.
I think a good place to start would be Fest.
The Fest of it all.
The Fest, yeah. Your first Fest was like 2 years ago, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. This year was my 3rd year. So yeah, that would have been, 2021.
2021. What was that like for you? Did you perform comedy there, I assume, that first time, right?
Yes. So for me coming up, I started comedy in Long Beach and Orange County. And so in my first comedy festival was actually a music festival called Broke LA. But I came up doing stand-up like in between punk bands oftentimes, or like it's some sort of like punk art craft queer collective thing. And then also, could you come in and do some stand up? And so I really felt at home at Fest right away, because my favorite kind of festival reminds comedians that they are not rock stars. We always need to be reminded that we are not rock stars.
Well, it kind of seems like comedians are more rock stars than rock stars are these days in terms of how people are looking at these mediums.
Yeah, and we please stop doing that, everybody. My favorite thing at Fest, because everybody is like so cool and so supportive, and my favorite thing is like I'll meet a band and they'll be like, "Oh, you're like, I've always wanted to do stand up," and I'm like, I've always wanted to play an instrument and sing for people, but I cannot count and walk at the same time, and I think counting's a big part of music. So it's for me, I know that like I think the parallels between like punk, ska, and stand up is that A, we're nerds, and B, we have a DIY. Most of us have a DIY ethos because we have to. You know, we have to. We're driving ourselves. We're crashing on couches. We're eating as much, if not more, Taco Bell. And on top of it all, like we are, you know, we're out there alone. I think that's the one thing. But at the end of the day, the whole lineup, all the comics are together. Like where I came up in Long Beach, if somebody heckled one comic, oh my gosh, that I felt sorry for that person in the front row because the whole lineup was going to go after that person. And so, yeah, it's like there is like a DIY kind of us against the world vibe, underdogs, perpetual underdogs. But yeah, in some ways, I was thinking about it today, how people like cringe as like punk and ska got big and like started being, commercial music and then like shrunk and expands and contracts. And I think stand up is doing the same thing where it's like big and everybody's like, oh, just love that you're a truth teller. And it's like, no, I tell dick jokes, sir. Like they're very fun dick jokes, but they're like definitely dick jokes. So
So when you perform at Fest, do you have certain kinds of jokes that you feel like fit better for that audience than other audiences, or did you tailor your set anyway?
That's a great question. I think the first time, my first set, I attempted to do that a little bit. And what I realized is, first off, like the Fest audience is so sweet. They empathize really hard. They're like, oh, and they're really good listeners. And they're also exhausted. And if it's in the Hippodrome, they're cooling off before going to see, the band that makes them feel 14 again. And and they're a smart crowd. So any panda like behavior, I remember I like told some joke about like going to the Waffle House or something, and they looked at me like, and like, we expect more of you. Now do that. And so I very quickly was like, okay, so I just go out and do my material and try not to like offend anybody. But also be offensive. I think this year I was like, I came out and started making fun of my last vocal cord being left at Folly. And that was fun because then they heard about it and then I made new friends. So it was fun.
I remember when you brought up Folly, you didn't get quite the response you were hoping for, and you berated the audience a little bit.
Yeah, that too. When I say I try not to offend, that's actually not true. I'm pretty combative sometimes, especially because they did slap, and I was like, so I just really, first off, Adam, anytime you're going to tell me like, hey, come check this band out, I know I'm in for a good time. I'm gonna have a great time, right? So I'm gonna somehow get to dance and also just rock out and go hard, and I love all of that. And so yeah, that is my thing. Usually, like if a crowd isn't giving enough to a comedian, I'll be like, you know what, you guys really let me down. I'm disappointed in you. So yeah, I did berate them, and I was like, well, I guess fuck that band, and then they all laughed. I was like, oh, okay, well, fuck them then. Can't get ourselves over to the Heartwood, might catch a ska band or something. So that is one thing about punk that like gosh, I remember I was trying to remember today the bands. So there's this venue in Fullerton that we were performing stand-up, like an hour of stand-up in between bands. And every comedian that went up, there was like a comedian who had been on like SNL and like all these like store comics, and they were struggle bussing and hating it because what they didn't realize is none of them people give a shit about them. They just want to see their buddy play bass in the band, And so it was funny because my first words are like, I come out there and I'm like, you know what? Fuck you guys. I get it. You're not here for us, but could you put the Pabst in your mouth if you can't shut the fuck up, and just started yelling at them a little bit. And they got it, I was like, I get it. You're all white boys with Mexican girlfriends, who out here in Orange County with your little Strike Anywhere shirts and shit. And like, I get it. Like, so I definitely can turn that on at Fest. That's definitely what happened in that moment. I was like, oh, you're not going to support this band? Well, fuck you. Because they're my new favorite thing. So
my other favorite thing was, the audience kind of ebbs and flows because everybody's going everywhere.
Yes.
But the room was pretty full when you were performing, but people kept coming in. You kept talking shit every time somebody would walk in front of you.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame the cold meds. I would say, no, I do that anyway. But yeah, I do talk. What it is it's like, there is inherent into my comedy. There is that like Chicano roast your ass when you're feeling insecure, kind of like, somebody, playing the dozens in a parking lot. There's like a little bit of that. So my way of normalizing, because everybody at Fest, they like come in the room. There's okay. So if you haven't been to Fest before out in Gainesville, they put the comedy in the one theater that like it makes it's the only you can't put a band there.
Yeah,
it would make zero. It's too nice.
Yeah.
And you can't. The thing about comedy, and it works, except for it's difficult to get in and out of the theater in an organized fashion without disrupting it. And again, we're the little sideshow of Fest. We're all basically, we get paid like, airfare and the chance to see all our favorite bands and, again, feel like teenagers. And like, so it is that thing of like, people are trying to sneak in real quiet, like they're trying to sneak into homeroom and stuff. And so my way of normalizing that is being like, yeah, come on in, sit down. You're not embarrassing yourself. It's fine. You're doing good. Sit. Okay. You're fine. It's fine. You here for the AC? Do you even know do you even know what comedy is? Just kind of talking shit is how I normalize it. That's how I bring people in, believe it or not. Cause where I come from, if someone's not talking shit to you, they probably don't like you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed about that venue, cleanest bathroom anywhere at Fest.
Now you told them, Adam. Yes, it is the best bathroom.
Yeah, we should bleep that out, really.
We should. Yeah, it should be. It is the cleanest bathroom, and it has toilet paper the longest. They changed it to all like 2 giant all gender bathrooms instead of. I wish they had just made them both all gender bathrooms with stalls. I don't care if a guy can hear me fart.
Sure.
It's fine. Especially at Fest. That's a mating call there, right? Yeah. That's like, it's like how you meet your husband or whatever. What I like about Fest is like, especially there's a lot of the comedians, there seems to be like 2 sects of comedians there. Cause it was Brandy Posey one day, we were talking about music and she was like, you've never been to Fest? And I was like, no. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna, she gave me the information and I was so excited to go and to have like, what I found is just like when I was a teenager, I want to be able to dance. I've never been that cool guy in the back of the room. I think the comedians separate into two categories, like ska dorks and I say that with love.
Yeah.
And as one of us. And then like guys with their arms crossed in the back of the sad boy venues. I call pretty much the ones.
Yeah, for sure.
The ones, and they all have a girlfriend with a chest tattoo and like the smallest of eyebrows.
They've just plucked those things into oblivion.
Exactly. And they're just like arms crossed in the back of the venue. No one looks like they're having fun, but they're all saying they're having the best time of their life, apparently. And that is for them.
Yeah.
Me, I want to wear colors and hop up and down and sweat and, go from doing like a samba almost to like twerking and then back to skanking,
Yeah.
Like I like to mix it up.
That was my favorite thing is I would look over in the crowd at the high dive and pretty much you were like stage. I can never get these right. If you're facing the stage, you would be to my right. Like
yes, stage right.
That was like your spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because you got to be able to get. I'm a woman of a certain age. You got to be able to get to fresh air at any time.
True.
So, as we were talking about on the internet today, punk is not dead, but man, it needs an ibuprofen and a nap. But yeah, but no, what I discovered, I think it wasn't the first year I went. Maybe it was the first year I went. My favorite night of fest is that like the cover portion of the evening at the high dive is like my favorite. And by the way, have y'all talked about this? Did Adam tell you Omnigon had a transcendent set at this last fest?
Oh, thank you.
I did not hear Transcendent. No, tell us about it.
It was so good. Adam was dividing the audience to like properly regulate a pit. Like it was the kids were going hard. It was a beautiful thing to just like be there and scream alongside and have the most fun. And I also think it's like there's such a diversity of age group in the high dive on a Sunday.
Yeah.
There's just like hella people in there. There's people that like that were there when when the first Op Ivy records were printed. They were there. They were. I was there when two-tone, before they called it two-tone. They were just looking, and then they thought, I have an idea. Just the greatest grandpas of ska. And then you've got the kids, and they're just like with their like Gen Z hair, and just everyone looks like an otaku, which rings true to my heart. And it's just like so much fun. And
there's a furry pitting the whole time.
And that's kind of like, so I got sober when I was 20, and I feel like I'm aging in reverse. Like I'm getting more and more closer to like my teenage years, where I'm like, I want to stand in the front, and I want to sing, and I want to be loud, and I want to let it all go.
Yeah.
At the show. Like that's my whole vibe. And you guys brought it. I was like, this is because where do we see you? It was like in North Hollywood. It's like, it wasn't a House of Blue. It was like it
was the Knitting Factory, and it was on like a Tuesday night or something.
Yeah, on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
and like and hey, you know what? Rad show for a Tuesday night.
Sure.
Especially in LA, you can't get people out of their you just can't.
Yeah.
They won't even go across town to get laid.
Yeah.
So like, but to see that, like, and what I love about Omnigon, not to just like make this just a love fest, and about you, Adam, is that you bring it, whether it's for 5 people or 50 people or 500 people, with the exact same passion and energy.
Well, thank you.
The great thing about Adam is that even when his band's not playing and he's in the audience,
yes,
he brings energy to the pit. He gets the pit going, and he finds the people that are a little nervous, but he can tell they want to join the pit, and he brings them to the pit.
Yes.
And gets them going. Yes, yeah.
Yes, he draws everyone to him in this very cool inclusive. It's like the definition of like being inclusive and being welcoming.
Yeah.
And I think in punk and ska, and probably like growing up, there were a lot of times where I maybe didn't feel welcomed in that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like, okay, well, you like ska, name 3 bands that aren't the Boss Tones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like there is that which ska is like the least amount of that you're going to get in any music scene, really. But like, it is very cool to have somebody there who's like, I think the first time we met it wasn't 2019 or 2021. It was 2022. We were like, if anybody creeps you out, you let me know, and I'll take care of them. Because if you guys don't know this, Adam is hella tall. And I was like, I was going to say that to you. So yeah, you're totally right on. It's that vibe of like, come on guys, we're having a party. Let's go dance.
Yeah.
Let's go skank and yell and scream and have a good time.
So in summary, Adam is just the greatest human being on planet Earth.
Is that why you guys have the video off so Adam can't be seen blushing?
Yes.
I love it.
I mean, the funny thing is Adam's in some like dark room with like candlelight and like skulls and stuff. So it would be such a weird vibe if you could see him right now.
But it's also a mess in here because we've been moving stuff around all day, and we're cleaning out our garage. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that isn't usually in here. But you are correct. The lights are like dimmed, and I did bring a candle over here so I could light it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just equal parts spooky and joy.
Yeah.
That's all anybody can want in the world, really.
That's all I want.
I was gonna say, I was babbling my way towards the cover songs. The only time I've ever felt legitimately unsafe at Fest, honestly, in a pit where I was like, this is it where grandma loses her hip. Like Tia Forte is gonna go down, was a cover of Kelly Clarkson's Since You've Been Gone at the High Dive with all of the ska bands.
Oh, during Devin K's set.
Yeah, during Devin K's set. That's why I thought, oh, I'm gonna die. This is it. This is everyone's losing their minds.
Yeah.
And I loved this year that like special moment of just a lot of California from like all the way from Orange County all the way up to the Bay, like Fishbone cover and of course I'm a little sad that not all the children didn't know every word to Welcome to Paradise. I thought that was mandatory. But it was very cool to be like, to have that moment. And I remember I texted some comics that I came up with in Orange County and I texted them. I was like, I don't want to do Fest without you next year. Like, if I get asked to come back, but it's like, there are some comics that like, when we first started, we'd have a bad set and I just wordlessly put on Born to Lose and then drive away from the venue, or like, turn on No Effects or turn on, just whatever. And it was kind of like our little code to each other that like, it's okay, buddy. We all eat a dick every once in a while. It's fine.
Could you tell us who the ska dorks are? The ska dork comedians are? I know there's you and Brandy Posey.
Yes.
Who are the other ska dork comedians?
Oh, let me think. Okay. JMB floats, John Michael Bond floats back and forth. And then Kevin Casey White likes to dance more than any. Like he likes like sad cool guy music. Like he likes, like he's gonna go and like cross his arms and watch Thursday. You know what I mean? But like he also is gonna like dance his ass off if ska tune covers Toxic. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna show up for the fun of it all. And then you've got let me think. Of course, Jake Flores, who was not there this year. And then gosh, I think I don't know with Curtis. I think Curtis is more of like a hardcore, like more like punk kind of a guy, but he'll show up to be like, and yeah, I think that's kind of what comes to mind right now.
All right.
And Kelly McInerney, again, like me, is there to party and shake her booty. She is, if I were drunk, if I were a drink in person, I would be much more like her, probably. But like in jail too, because I was bad. So, and of course, Andrew Hillary, like, it's the thing I like too about Fest is, because sometimes I get a little, because I like to hang out at the ska stage a lot because it's just fun and the vibe is welcoming. And at my own album recording, a Fest friend I met on Sunday at the High Dive was there.
Nice.
Just a random dude I was dancing with was like, yeah, I'll come see your show. Like, so it was just one of those, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. It all leads to this or whatever. But yeah, so there's a lot of camaraderie there, but I always got to remember to like venture out. There's always, I feel like every Fest, there are bands I didn't see that I definitely wanted to see. And I'm like, I got to go next year and see them. I always feel that way. Do you guys feel like it's sand running through your fingertips?
Oh yeah. I was trying to tell somebody, because they were like, yeah, Fest looked awesome. I was like, yeah, the worst part of Fest is you basically have to decide what rad things you're gonna miss. And then if you're not on point and like going to the next thing, you just miss it by default because you just run out of time.
Yeah.
So like I remember the few things that I missed. I missed Eve 6, which for no good reason other than like I was just standing in the wrong place at the wrong time and was like, oh shit, I should have been watching Eve 6.
Can I recreate it for you?
Sure.
So I want you to imagine the hardest looking punk dudes, just tattoos from the eyelids down. Okay. Like bald, just like fuck everything tattooed on their knuckles, you know, the hardest looking punk dudes. And then like some goofy comedians in the middle, just all scream singing to
Inside Out.
Scream singing to Inside Out all at once.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of magic because it was like a moment where we were all like, you know what? Yeah, guess what? We're not cool. None of us are cool. Cool is cringe, and now cringe is cool. And just shut up. Let's everybody just sing that Hard to Blender song. Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was dope.
And then there was a band called Wolfface that played a Refused cover set, which I would have loved to have seen, but I was just like I was at the furthest point away from where they were. I had like 7 minutes to get there. And I actually found one of those like bird scooters. And I was like, fuck it, I'll take my life into my own hands and get one of these. And it was out of order. So I was like, I'm not making it. There's no way.
From what venue were you at, like Heartwood trying to get over to?
Yeah, I was all down at Heartwood and I was trying to get past Bo Diddley.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
My regret last year, which I made good on, was Folly.
Yeah.
Right. And then my regret this year was the person who had the car I got a ride with, who had some drinks and needed me to drive him home, called it quits right before MS Paint and Gels.
Okay.
Those are the two where I'm like, damn it.
I saw Gel twice this year because I went to the crazy after show like in a dirt lot that went on until 3:30 in the morning. It was totally worth it.
That's so much shit. I should have just went back. If somebody had been like, hey girl, come over to this dirt lot, I'm gonna drop a pin, I would have found a Lime scooter that was still working.
It wasn't a bad walk. It was okay. It wasn't bad. And then the good thing was I got there and there was still like a whole band for me to wait through. So like it wasn't a thing.
See?
Yeah, I should have taken you with me.
Oh no, we were already back at the Airbnb. Yeah.
In Defense of Ska will return in a moment.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this
Why?
a lot.
Why?
Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.
So you mentioned your new special that you just recorded. I heard that you and asked Adam about using Omnigon for this special.
Yes. So first off, many comedians had sat me down and been like, girl, you need to record a special. Whatever this perfection, or record an album, whatever this perfectionist bullshit is, you got to stop it. Just put those jokes on a record and then leave them behind because you've been doing them for almost 10 years. And it was Adam who broke through, because it's like comedians, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, all right. But Adam was like, I'm tired of listening to the same 3 jokes on YouTube. And I was like, oh, it hit me. I felt shame, like it hit me in my heart. And I was like, all right, I got to do something about this. And so what ended up happening was, so the idea was, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to record this album. I'm going to do the best jokes I've done in the last 10 years. And I really wanted to put something together that was a narrative. And then I asked my friend from Radland Records, it will be a Burn This release, Brandy Posey's label. It will be a Burn This release, but Radland had asked me to be with them early on. And so I was like, hey, do you want to come do production for it? So I went out to the Comedy Fort out in Fort Collins with David Rodriguez, his club. It's awesome. It was built with comedians in mind. So it records really well. They mic the audience. So I was like, okay, I just want some additional audio and video coverage in case I want to release it. And then I started to kind of like talk to the dude about like, well, what if it was more of like a DIY kind of skate video special? Like, what if it reminded us of those like old VHS tapes that would have like punk music and like random stuff, like, what if it gave us that kind of zine feel, but a comedy special? And he was like, yeah. And then he didn't read any more emails and then kind of forgot. And so we get there and it was the whole journey leading up to it was crazy because I was like, I had surgery this year, had to yeet the ute, had to go.
Yeet the ute.
You had to yeet that ute. She had to go. She was an unreliable member of the team. Her quarterly review was, you got to get out of here, you rotten bag of meat. So my favorite thing is sometimes I like when people are yelling about the Supreme Court, I'm like, I beat them to it. They can't regulate it. It's not there. But yeah, so we go out and I leading up to it. And again, Tony, if you're listening, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Cause I had emailed Tony and I was like, hey, can I do Fest? Cause I real talk, I really want to see Guar. I've never seen Guar. and I want to see my friends all in one place. And Tony was like, yeah, you can do it. We're giving out, he gave me a certain set. And then so many comedians dropped out. I ended up with a nice long set to prepare for my album. And he also was like amiable to that kind of email of like, hey, if there's more time available, I'd love to do a longer set to prepare for my album. And I had a wicked cold that week and then came to Fest.
Yeah, you sounded like shit straight up.
I sounded bad. Probably should have canceled. It was bad. Apparently every year there's a comedian that just loses their voice altogether. And this year it was my turn to be the one who's just like, hey guys, what's up? So I'm losing my voice every 10 seconds. And there is I get over there and then I go on tour and we're driving from Fest to Altercation and they've got some dates lined up. And as long as nothing happens during that time, I will be fully 100% prepared to do my album. I will be just like rode hard, ready to go. And then I got COVID. I went from having like a cold sinus infection thing to having COVID. And I just immediately rushed home and slept for a week. That was like my body was just like shut down mode. You got to sleep. And then I woke up and was like, oh shit, I'm recording an album in a week. And Brandy was kind enough to put like a show together in LA. So my LA friends and family got to see kind of the proto version of that. And it was very funny because my one homegirl showed up and she sat in the front row and then change fell out of her purse for like almost 20 minutes. I was like, it sounded like a slot machine was throwing up on the floor. It was great. And I was like, what in the Native American casino situation are we doing here? So that was fun. And then I got to go out to Denver and run it just a couple more times. And then boom, I was recording at the club and everything. It must feel like, Adam, have y'all had those like tour moments where you're like, if anything else goes wrong, I'm just going to laugh hysterically for the rest of my life?
Yeah, totally.
Because there's only two modes, right? You can either laugh at it or you can like flip a table, have a diva moment, but I don't have diva money. I have like punk rock suck it up money.
Yeah.
So what happened was we get out there and the club was like, we have to on a Sunday night move your album / special taping up to 8:30 in a college town in the mountains.
There's a worse way that can happen.
How so?
They move it earlier.
Oh, that's true.
Like when I was like, oh, she got moved, but
at least it's forward.
It's later. So it's like, okay, well, if somebody shows up at 7, they're bummed, but they're like, oh, I can figure it out.
I literally had friends in LA. This is how you can tell I'm an elder millennial, because I had friends in LA who were like, 7:00? Really? That's late. Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, have you thought about noon? Like, it was just unhinged. So we get there. So I'm a little bit panicked, and shout out to all of the like local Denver famous comics that reposted and helped me kind of like rally the troops. And then let's see, night 1, the electrical cut out on one wall of the venue because I turned a heater on for the headliner. So about a minute into my set, the audio completely drops out. And then night 2, we drove up on we were leaving with flyers, because then I just go into like country kid mode. I'm just like, hey y'all, you seem really cool. Would you want to go to a show on Sunday night at 8:30? You doing anything? Here, tell me Anna sent you. Here, I'm gonna give you my number. Like just real country shit. And what was great about it is my Kyle Clark of Radland, he found something that almost every other comedian in my life thinks is the most annoying thing about me on the road, is that I'll talk to anybody and I'll invite any old person to the show. I'm just like, hey y'all, you want to come listen to some stand-up comedy? It's dark humor about my reproductive problems. Come on down. Yeah. You want to come into it? It'll be fun. So he started rolling on a lot of that, and gosh, we were getting flyers made at the like Office Max, and I go to leave, and there is a flipped car in an intersection, and a bunch of teenagers running around, and people trying to like free people from an Escalade. And before I know it, I've parked my car and I'm just running out to try to help. And he is just like, and I'm like, hey, I don't think you should let those people out of that Escalade that way. You should wait for the paramedics. And I see all the kids just kind of panicking. And I'm like, hey, so everybody who's in the Accord, I'm responsible. I'm the irresponsible adult until your parents get here. So everybody gather around. You have to stay in my eyesight. Please call your parents, but call them. Don't go across the parking lot to call them. Okay. Because the EMTs are going to need to triage you. And I just went full auntie mode on a like emergency scenario. And then I got in the car and went back to the hotel or went back to the comedy club, threw on some clothes. And 20 minutes later, I was featuring at a comedy club.
That's amazing.
Those are like the most fun sets, I think, of the weekend, because it captures that what Adam's seen me do, where it's like occasionally I'll just like fight an audience for laughs. Like it's that roast battle in me. I'll come for you. And so I liked those sets a lot. And then Sunday rolls around, and not only did the sound cut out the second the show started, we went in there to sound check earlier that day. We set up all our equipment, everything. Once my video guy was like, oh yeah, you wanted to do video. And so we came up with these like great DIY solutions. We went to Best Buy, bought a bunch of stuff and returned it. Like we were just committing little crimes to get it done, and so we've got like 4 cameras up and a bunch of mics. We're giving it as much, professional audio as we can. And the first thing that happens is like the venue's mic setup drops out as the host enters the stage. Just pop, drops out.
Dope.
And I come running out just like a crazy person, like, all right, guys, let's keep this energy going. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Woohoo. Yeah. And we somehow got like 60 people in that venue. And but yeah, so the audio cuts out immediately and I come running out and I'm like, everybody keep it going, keep that energy up. And then the two openers go up and they're doing great. And the crowd's a little different. They're a little more sensitive. They're laughing at certain things. They're really sweet. And then I go up and I'm doing my set. They're a little smaller, so I can't be as big and combative. I actually kind of have to draw them in a little bit more. So it's a little more, as Kyle said, he goes like, you were feral when you got on stage. You were like the feral version of you that everyone sees on the road, which is like a little on my heels sometimes and a little like, come on, guys, let's have a good time. And then his camera overheats in the middle of it. And so I see him just running around like crazy in the background and trying not to get distracted. And I got to do the hour and it came out the way I wanted it to. And everybody was really sweet. And afterwards, I run out and it felt like, have you ever seen Pee-wee's Big Top Adventure?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Okay. So, when he looks into the audience and there's like the goat and like everybody from all the scenes in the movie, I really could look in the audience and see people I had invited individually, which was hilarious. And then like the girls from the Crystal Store, like just everybody in Fort Collins, I came within 10 feet of, got an invite to the show. And then afterwards, so I've been clean and sober for a long time. And basically the local anonymous people, word got around that, that weekend was also my 21st anniversary of being clean and sober. And they all showed up to the show. So it was this like wild experience where it was like we broke the record for the amount of Shirley Temple sales in the club. Like it became like a joke. They would be like, another Shirley Temple, huh? Not to say if you're a comedy club booker, listen, my people, they buy drinks. They just don't buy drinks. So, because alcohol sales are what keep comedy clubs open. I guess I'll encourage more drunks to come. I don't know. But it was really cool. And I felt, and the whole weekend just felt like very DIY, very punk, very like, let's do this. Like, let's see what we get, warts and all. And that's kind of it became the ethos of it, is like, what we're going to show is like the warts and all. I immediately, he was like, Kyle was like, any of your band friends think they want to contribute? And I was like, I'm definitely asking Adam right now. And so, yeah. And so many of the songs, like I've sent him like a little playlist, and so many of your tracks, especially from the most recent album, they all like, it really captured that vibe. Like, are we okay?
Yeah. That was what I was going to say.
It was very much because there were a few moments where we would both look at each other with like excitement because we knew we were catching this very weird moment. We're both like big Insomniac with David Tell fans, and we're both big documentary fans over maybe special fans. We like comedy albums, but like some specials can feel very polished, very staged. And he kept thinking I wanted polished and staged, and I was like, no. I want you to get video of me burping. Like I trip and fall down. Like I'm a goof, my whole thing is like, I'm a mess in a fun way, not in a dangerous way, in a fun way. And so that's kind of what we captured. And I feel like the water heater broke at the comedy condo an hour before the show. Let me think of other weird things that happened. The pipes burst at a hotel we stayed at. It was just like, just one little calamity after another. And it's all, stuff that we had no control over. So what are you going to do? You just ride it and have fun.
That's the best attitude you can have for all that stuff.
Exactly. And that was kind of too, it was like asking you to have Omnigon, contribute to that. I think is you guys have such a positive attitude, and like, it's a keep it real attitude. Like, we can all acknowledge when something sucks, but also acknowledge like it's going to be okay because we have each other, we have unity, we have like, it's we're not alone. And I think that's the vibe. But yeah, when I immediately sent him, I was like, okay, so now you got to listen to this song. And he hasn't gotten back to me. So I was chasing him around all weekend, just like playing music from Fest. I was like, you need to hear this, and you need to hear this, and you need to hear this, and so it was very cool. It was very cool. So thank you for having that conversation with me. We'll see where it goes. I mean, obviously, as you pointed out, music licensing and rights and stuff is always very silly. And
I mean, like we don't care, like, of course use it, but like I know that like there could be the thing of like, oh, but if you're doing XYZ, then you got to talk to so and so. And
that's very true. That's very well.
I don't know all that stuff.
I mean, there is a crossover. Like there are comedians I came up with, like, who've been in bands like with y'all, which is all crazy. Like it's all crazy. What a small world, by the way. What a small, insane world. Like the fact that, like, here's a crazy thing. We talked about our mutual friend John. What's weird about him is we knew each other for years, and he just like casually brings up that he's been in bands that I love.
You're talking about John Graber?
Yeah. He just casually brings it up.
So John Graber, okay, so for ska people, his biggest connection probably is with We Are the Union, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Now, he's worked with them on some music, like behind the board, but he's also been in a couple of their videos. Rasputin, he's dancing, does a great dance in that. And then there's the Your Way, Your Time. He is a sad banana. I think that was like done at peak COVID. So I think it was like, oh, we're all stuck inside and we're all sad. I think that was what the point of that was.
We're all sad bananas.
We're all sad bananas.
We'll be right back after this.
Well, shopping for a car?
Yep, Carvana made financing a car as smooth as can be.
Oh, yeah?
I got pre-qualified instantly and had real terms personalized just for me.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
Well, I got to browse thousands of car options on Carvana, all within my budget.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
It does. I actually wanted a car that seemed out of my range, but I was able to add a cosigner and found my dream car.
It doesn't get much...
Oh, it gets smoother. It's getting delivered tomorrow.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today.
Hey, welcome to Kyle Meredith with Consequence. This is where we check out some of the cool new things happening in the Consequence Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, I get to talk with Adam Unz to discuss the latest season of The Opus.
Hi.
Well, first off, Adam, congratulations on the new season.
Thanks, Kyle.
So, which album is in the spotlight this season?
As always, it's presented by the Consequence Podcast Network and Sony Legacy Recordings. It's a music history series, and it's coming back to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Alice in Chains' sophomore album, Dirt.
What a classic album. I completely remember hearing it, those first few listens back when it came out, 92. I probably picked it up in 93 and 94. It was just dark and heavy and so melodically beautiful at the same time.
I know. Dirt was truly a genre-bending collection that defined an era. So we're going to help our listeners to explore the context of what was happening back then and also hear how it still inspires artists and fans today.
Sounds great. And you can listen to it at consequence.net or, of course, wherever you get podcasts. It's great talking with you, Adam. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Kyle.
Your relationship or your initially meeting of John, though, was through recovery, right?
Yeah. Well, friends of friends coffee cult stuff. And he comes running up to me one day and was like, hey, this is gonna sound weird, but it's not. I'm not trying to be creepy or anything. I have a wife, but can we be friends? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we became friends that way, and became really fast friends too, which is so cool. And like just like watching him from that moment of like financial insecurity and like I don't know how I'm gonna make my next paycheck to being almost impossible to book out to do stuff with now because he's so busy. Is like, it's so cool. And I mean, I love watching people around me thrive. Like that to me, I think there's a lot of like musicians and comedians that can sit around and look over the fence and be like, why don't I have that? Or why isn't this like this?
Sure.
Or, but I love watching people thrive. It just really, it's like, because where my brain goes is, hey, if it's them, it could be me, and like, and also look at them go, so yeah, so it's been really cool. But yeah, he's a grump and I love him. I'm usually the person he calls if he's giving y'all a hard time, and then calls me and is like, gets whatever the poison out of his system, and then I go, yeah. So and likewise, I had some, I've had tour moments where I have to call him and be like, I have tour things I need to complain about, and he'll be like, all right, and like at the end of the day, you're living your life beyond your wildest dreams, so it's super fun.
What are some other things that John has done? I know he's worked with Eve 6, hasn't he?
Yeah, and with if you guys had him on, you should have him on. I'm sure you have, right?
We have not yet had on John, but we've had Eve 6 on.
Oh, okay.
If we have John on though, we're gonna spend an hour, 20 minutes talking about banana,
sad banana,
and then 20 minutes talking about everything else.
That's so funny.
I don't think I've ever seen a sad banana as good as the one that John played.
He can do a little acting. He's been in some commercials. But yeah, no, he plays in No Effects now, and then also like he just got off tour with like Warpaint in South America, and
Warpaint, huh? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then like works with. It's always so random. Like it feels random to me because it'll be like, oh, some band I love. He'll be like, oh yeah, I mixed that, and I'm like, what? But yeah, there's let me think. Yeah. I feel like he's yelling. If he's listening to this, he's yelling.
He's like, it's this thing and this thing.
He's yelling all the answers he's expecting you to say.
Yeah. Whoa. He's worked with Bad Cop. He's done a lot of stuff obviously in the ska punk world, but I think what's really, really fun about him, I'm going to spill some tea. You ready? My favorite thing is I get to know punk and ska musicians, is how every single one of them secretly wants to make a pop album, just like a pop album. And one of his favorite things, like one day I was like, I'll put some music on because the baby was fussy, and I'm holding the baby and he's like, are you seriously paying like music I've worked on? Turn that off. He's like, she loves Justin Bieber, and here's the thing, John loves Justin Bieber. So the baby loves Justin Bieber. So one of my favorite things to do is like, because sometimes I'll just go hang with them when they're doing stuff, and like I got to see Reed recently over at John's studio, and we're chilling and listening to some stuff, and I will take the biggest, like I'll take like just a cheesy pop reference, and I'll just be like, you know what, this is giving me real Taylor Swift vibes, and I mean that in a good way, and they just light up. It's so cute. It's so cute to find out. It's that moment in the movie Green Room where they're like, okay, your Desert Island album, and everybody is like answering like the most like hardcore like punk, like, oh yeah, and they're like really getting into it. And then later on in the movie, when they're about to die, they all start telling the truth. And one of them's like Britney Spears or like whatever, it's all pop music. It's all like, one of them says, I think Prince, November Rain, like they all get like honest in a way. And I like that. I like those little moments when punk and ska guys like drop the cool vibe. They put down the pork pie hat and take off the checkers, and then they put sleeves back on their shirt. And then for a moment, they're just regular dudes that just like regular things. And for me, those are the sweetest little moments of getting to know punk and ska musicians. It like really brings me joy.
It is such a rare moment to get to see ska musicians not being cool.
Well, I mean, Is there anything cooler than having a furry at your show?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally.
Can you imagine what the inside of that suit smells like?
Oh my God, I can't.
Brandy and I have had whole conversations about what the inside of that suit probably smells like. Because I know what I smell like at the end of the day at Fest.
Yeah, I always like every time I see them at Fest, I'm just like, you're drinking water, right? And then from inside the suit, they're like, yeah.
Like, okay. You know what? Okay, Adam, this is my pitch. Me and you do an uncle and auntie booth at Fest.
Where we just take care of people.
Where we just like hydrate people. We've like, look, we've got some Gatorade. Have you had protein today? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we've got some high protein vegan snacks here because we know that you're gluten-free and vegan. And
Feed the Scenes already beat us to
That's true. That's true. They kept me. There was a moment where, again, I was so sick and they just look at me and they're like, do you want a baked good? And I was like, I'm allergic to wheat. And they said, we have a Rice Krispie treat. And I was like, I love you. Thank you. How can I, you know what? I'm going to allow you to mom me for once. I mom everyone else. I used to be the comedian with so I'd pick up all the boys in Orange County, especially on a Monday night. And I'd pick them up and then I'd have like snacks in my car. And they used to call me comedy soccer mom. Because I'd be like, I have an orange back there. You should try some vitamin C. If you eat cigarettes all day, you're going to get scurvy. You're going to get scurvy. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's I always have a snack on me. So you're right. Feed the Scene is doing that. Maybe I've figured out to start telling people if comedy's at the Heliotrope to just tell people you're probably on the verge of heat stroke. Why don't you go cool off at the Heliotrope?
Yeah.
Because that AC is blasting. It's very nice. And the seats are comfy.
It's a way different vibe than the rest of Fest.
Yeah, it is a way different vibe. It is very like it and some of the I know some people like prefer performing at the High Dive. I'm just happy to be there. I'm just happy to be there. So but yeah, I try to, again, I'll polish any turd and I'm like, well, the AC is real nice and the chairs are comfortable and we all know we need a nice seat for our backs because did you see me teaching Esteban how to stretch?
No, but he needs it.
I know, right? He was like, man, my back hurts. And I was like, your hamstrings and glutes are probably pulling your lower back out of alignment. Let me show you how to stretch.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, yeah, I think I get to enjoy, and Adam, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think those of us are a little older we get to enjoy the longevity of punk and ska and having like a fun time and like, feeling that sort of like ageless joy for, we get to have that because, we take care of ourselves, we put in souls in. We're not flat footing out there in those Converse streets anymore. We gave those up years ago. We got to have our support now. A little bit of heel cushioning.
Speaking of which,
all right,
black belt in karate.
Yeah,
that's your main like physical activity, right?
Yes. I'm a 3rd degree black belt in a Okinawan style called Weichi Ryu, which is it's very traditional. It's sister styles are Shohei Ryu and Gojo Ryu, and none of that means I feel like when somebody is like really getting deep into music and they're like, have you heard of the most obscure thing ever? That's what I did. I was like, here's the most obscure thing you've ever heard of. It's not just karate. Oh no, it's Okinawan karate and it's a specific style. And I fell into that when I first got clean. I had like 90 days and it just became part of my lifestyle and I love it so much. And there was a moment where my back got really bad. And my doctor was like, never do that again, please. And then I found out recently the doctor actually used to train in one of the sister styles and he actually knows a lot about the karate that I do. And so we just agreed that I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to stretch and protect my back as much as I can and do my little Pilates and my core work and, and have a good time. And then occasionally, and also skank a little bit, have a nice time with that. I haven't like karate kicked anybody while skanking.
Doctor's orders.
Gotta move.
Yeah. Gotta skank a little bit.
My new obsession is proving that you can twerk to anything. So if
I
you
remember you told me that like right before Folly. You're like,
yes, and then they were like specifically like, all right, guys, because like if you're not familiar with, I assume everybody listening to this podcast is probably familiar with Folly. I have a very fun story to tell you about that too.
Okay.
But they are like Omnigon, the curious mix of ska and hardcore.
They're basically Converge if Converge played ska.
Yes.
Like they're like just like the heaviest, most technically proficient, like hardcore band. But then, oh wait, here's a ska part.
Yeah, they slap. They are so good. They were there's a few bands that like when I post them in my stories on my social media, my friends like John will slip in and be like, I know that band, I love them. So Folly was definitely one of those where my friends in LA were like, oh, you got to see Folly. Like they were so mad. And of course, Adam and I converged over there. There was a moment. Who was your homeboy who did he had everybody doing squats in the pit during Folly?
Maybe Matt, or it could have been some of the Hans Gruber people.
It was a really good looking dude. That buff guy. We were walking.
Oh yeah, that's Matt.
Yeah. And so yeah, so he had everybody getting fit, like mad ripped in the pit, which I liked. Not skipping leg day, boys.
So is this the same Matt that we were hanging out with at Supernova?
Yes, same Matt. He didn't think he was going to make it to Fest, and then suddenly he just appeared, and he's like, "I can be here today. Tomorrow's my daughter's birthday, but I can be here today."
What?
Like, oh shit, that's rad!
Wow, bring the kid. I saw a lot of babies at Fest this year, like with headphones on, like toddlers, like baby people.
Yeah, I think. I mean, yeah, people do that. I feel like. Like my 10-year-old like really wants to like go full on and like go to like ska and punk shows. But like he's 10. I told him he can tour with us when he's 14.
Oh,
like,
you
take
him to
wait
like
a little bit.
Do you take him to like the Aquabats?
Take him to Gilman. No, I take him to like Gilman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I did take him to one of our shows though that was like an all hardcore show though, and did not prompt him that it's different than a ska show, and he got popped by some kid that was the same size as him but older.
Oh my god!
And he was all bummed out, and my wife like scolded me. Was like, "You need to like explain that it's different." And I was like, "You're right, my bad."
Yeah,
my bad.
The first time I went to Rocky Horror, my mom busted out the photos from when she went to Rocky Horror and told me exactly what to expect. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's well, I guess it's probably easy as a dad to assume that like he knows, he sees. I mean, imagine being 10 and having you as a dad. You're too cool.
Sure. I just didn't think he would try to get out there without me. Like cuz we were playing. So
yeah, he experienced the pit without his giant dad pushing everybody away.
Yes. And without it being like kind ska people who are like not looking to like crowd kill somebody.
Exactly. Yeah, there's oh, poor baby. But yeah, okay. So we're at Folly and they were like, yeah, we're just gonna like slow down a little bit. Like everybody just listen to this one. And I immediately started twerking because it felt fun to me. They said to dance.
Yeah.
They said to dance, and boy howdy did I. But that is my favorite thing is to like booty shake to anything, because you know what? Sometimes there's not a lot of booties at the show. You know, you want to talk about Graper? You should talk to him about his Hank Hill butt. He ain't got no butt. That's all I'm saying. So if you got a booty, you got to represent, you know? You got to have a little fun. But yeah, they were super fun. And did I tell you about their merch guy?
A little bit, but let's tell the audience about the merch guy.
Okay.
Folly. This is Folly's merch guy.
This is such a deep cut. I am so sorry. If you're listening to this, you've gone from some incredible interviews, like deep cuts on music. And I'm like, let me just tell you about backstage antics.
Yeah, but I mean, has anyone ever talked about the Folly merch guy?
No, never.
I mean, now
no, not even Folly. Folly didn't even talk about the Folly merch guy.
I'm here to tell you.
Let's hear it.
So here's what happens. So I run up and I grab a t-shirt, and I didn't realize there was like a line of people behind me. So if you're behind me, I'm sorry. So I run up and I go to grab a t-shirt, and the merch guy just kind of like looks up and he's like, hey, he was like, oh, I'll go, what's your favorite shirt? And he goes, because that's the thing is, if you're listening to this and you're going to shows, it's so much to get a human at the show. But if you want like extra support, like if you really fall in love with a band or a comedian or something, buy their merch, ask them for their website, like go and follow them, tell
sidebar really quick. Who has merch now?
Oh, I have merch now. Oh, yes. I have real big girl merch. I have t-shirts. You can go to annavalenzuela.com. I don't know. Actually, they're not posted. There will be. Because I have to get.
By the time this episode is out, they'll be up.
Yes. I got scolded by a fest friend. They were like, "Why do you not have anything above extra large?" And I was like, I couldn't afford it. And they were like, your fans are 2X people. Okay. And I was like, all right, thank you. So yeah. So I run over to grab a shirt to support and because I genuinely really had fun watching them. And I'm talking to their merch guy and we just have like a normal conversation, but he is a little like, I'm a woman of a certain age. It doesn't take much. Right. So he was like, he was a little like, he was like, I don't have your size in the shirts that I like. And I was like, oh, which ones do you like? He goes, this one, and this one. He goes, but I'm out of smalls. And the fact that he thought I was a small, what a cutie, And so I run over and I do my set and I'm talking shit about, I'm just like, oh, I guess we'll fuck them, blah, blah, blah. And that night I got a message from the band that they were like, Adam said that you were funny. And a couple people said that you mentioned us in your set and you were kind of talking shit. And we want to see your show tomorrow. And then they didn't show up, which is so funny. And because they had some sort of dramas or whatever. And then they said, our merch guy really enjoyed talking to you. And I was like, oh, that's so funny. And so I go over and the fun thing about, there is a vibe. Adam, you've been married for a hell of a long time, but I wonder if you
15
noticed.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you noticed this at Fest. The Sunday night singles are.
I heard you mention it on a different podcast.
They're in heat.
Yeah. There's the single people are definitely like it's last call and they're looking for their
especially the guys. Suddenly the guys are like, hey girl, hey. And I'm like, all right, listen, young man. I could have birthed you. It's very cute. Thank you. So yeah, it's fun. It's and it's fun. You dance with hella people, you have a good time, you make new friends, and most of those guys are just like awkward punk ska guys. They're not going to pull the trigger,
Right.
Very rarely is one of them like, hey, you want a room key? Like that's the move. If you have a room and you're not sleeping on a couch already, you're a Fest 11. You got your own room and there aren't 27 horn players staying in it and a couple of wrestlers. You're a Fest 12. You're killing it. So there's anyway, I head over and we're watching we're dancing, we're having a good time, we're singing, we're watching Omnigun blow everybody's mind. It's amazing. Flying Raccoon Suit kills. They had a great time. For a fact, the guy who came and saw me at Fort Collins was like, oh, I'm going to leave and go see this other band. And I was like, if you like ska, you should stay for Flying Raccoon Suit. And he goes, why? Are they any good? And then he leans over halfway through the set. He was like, these people, they fucking rock. I was like, yeah, they fucking roll, dude. They're rad. They're ripped. Chill. And so you made the right call. What are you going to do? Go stand up Bo Diddley with your arms crossed and, you're fine. Stay here. So then, and I say this all with respect. This is just the roast mode in me.
Yes.
So then I go out and I go say hi I go up to the Folly merch table and I said, oh, I heard you enjoyed having a conversation with me. Do you happen to have any shirts in my size now? And we start talking but there are hella girls
circling this dude.
Circling the dude. Like they're like coming up and they're like, oh, hey, and they're like giving that like game recognized game space where they're like, oh, you're talking to him. I'll wait. And I'm like, I'm just chilling, meeting other, I also don't want to get in the way because it's easy to like occupy a merch table. You want to make sure that like the commerce is still taking place because that's how everyone's making their money. And so I'm, talking to different members of the band. They were all such kind, lovely dudes, like so nice. And we're talking back and forth, and I noticed there's just like there's especially two ladies just kind of circling. And at one point, they're loading merch in their van, and they're like, "Where is the merch guy for Folly?" Like, they're mad, and I like had to go chase him down for these two women. It was very funny. And so it became the joke. Like, everybody was like, "Oh, did you go, hang out with that band?" And I was like, "Yeah, with the comedy pad." We're like, they're laughing, and we had this whole joke about how we'd never seen a merch guy with so much swag. Like, I was like, there were hella girls there, and Brandy was like, "Oh, he should have started folding shirts on stage with the band, like the hype man for Kill Lincoln, but like he's just folding shirts." He's just the shirt guy on stage. He's just making sure everybody's sizes are in place. And so that became the joke. And I tweeted about it because I thought it was funny. And the band saw it and reposted it, and then posted a bunch of pictures of him sleeping with his mouth open. So that was great. I like being part of a like multi-platform / in real life clowning on somebody for having too much swag. But it is something to meet a band that their merch guy has groupies, but they don't.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, only at Fest on a Sunday when everybody's like, I gotta get it in. And it's like, we all smell like cheese. You don't, you just need a massage and a hug.
And a bottle of water.
And like something greasy to eat, maybe a kiss on the forehead. That's all you need, is someone to be like, "You know what? I know that you look like a hot armpit, but guess what? You're still pretty."
In Defense of Ska will return in a moment.
Hey, welcome to Kyle Meredith with Consequence. This is where we check out some of the cool new things happening in the Consequence Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, I get to talk with Adam Unz to discuss the latest season of The Opus.
Hi.
Well, first off, Adam, congratulations on the new season.
Thanks, Kyle.
So, which album is in the spotlight this season?
As always, it's presented by the Consequence Podcast Network and Sony Legacy Recordings. It's a music history series, and it's coming back to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Alice in Chains' sophomore album, Dirt.
What a classic album. I completely remember hearing it, those first few listens back when it came out. 92, I probably picked it up in 93 and 94. It was just dark and heavy and so melodically beautiful at the same time.
I know. Dirt was truly a genre-bending collection that defined an era. So we're going to help our listeners to explore the context of what was happening back then, and also hear how it still inspires artists and fans today.
Sounds great. And you can listen to it at consequence.net, or of course, wherever you get podcasts. It's great talking with you, Adam. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Kyle.
Okay, so we were talking a little bit about roasting. I want to talk about your Comedy Central roast battle chops.
Get into it.
Aaron likes this show.
Okay.
I've watched you on it.
You're very good because you're friendly and mean at the same time, which I think is a good quality to have in a roaster.
Yes.
I have a very specific question about this show, though, because I was a fan of the show. Okay, did you get to meet The Wave? I'm really fascinated by The Wave.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Those guys, I mean, they used to, back in the day, they used to ask every female roaster, would you let The Wave smash? That was when we were just on Periscope. That used to be a thing. But yeah, there was a couple of times. I think I kissed one of them on stage for fun. You're in the heat of the moment. Yeah. You get weird.
Explain to people who The Wave are, what The Wave is, and how it relates to this show. It's a comedy roast battle. It's like roasting, but it's kind of done a little bit like a rap battle.
Yes.
And then The Wave. What's the wave?
All right. So I'll just kind of present it to you. So if you've never seen a roast battle before, it is basically dais roasting directed at one other person, tit for tat. So you're going, one person tells a joke and another person tells a joke. And then they have a panel of judges that judge, or audience cheers that judge. Initially, I think it was like audience cheers. And I'm kind of like the second sort of wave, the second like iteration of roasters that came through. And you also had I don't think you might have gotten to see it on my season, but they have a thing called the haters table. So there are also just two of the meanest comedians they can find sitting at a table making fun of you while you roast. You've got the judges making fun of you while you roast. You have the audience yelling God knows what. I was notorious for like flipping the audience off and yelling at them all the time. And then you've got the person roasting you, and they're also like rebutting your jokes. There's a lot of moving parts, but if you had a really good joke or really bad joke, there was this three men who would all Jeremiah Watkins, Jamara Neighbors, and Willie Hunter would all come running out and do these little like 10-second sketches in honor of your joke either going great or going bad. So like we did a show on 9/11, and not the 9/11, but on a on a September 11th of the future. And there was a joke that bombed, so the first thing they did was like unfurl these like paper twin towers and jump through them, and like so they're doing like visually insane, very physically active jokes. One time Jeremiah shaved his pubes on stage.
Oh God.
And I've never had anybody ask me about the wave. I'm so excited about this.
I have another question though. As you continue this, but
yeah,
I read that they weren't really officially invited, but that they just started doing it, and then they're just sort of allowed to continue to do it. Is that the case?
Well, yeah. So wow, okay? So
I know I go deep.
You go deep, dude. I knew this was coming. I was like, I wonder where the deep question's going to be. So Roast Battle started at the Comedy Store because two comedians, I think it was Jared Levin and this other guy, they're both kind of unhinged. They're both the kind of comedian that'll get like naked and kicked out of a club, you know? And they got in an argument. And so during the Sunday mic, and Brian Moses was like, why don't you come back, and instead of fighting physically, because no comedian should ever fight anything because they don't have the muscle mass to do that. They'll just get winded and fall down. And so they said, come back, and instead of like fighting, you guys can roast each other. Like you're like kind of like a Wild 'N Out style thing. And you can roast each other. And then they started to make it a segment on that show. So the Sunday mic was called Show Up, Go Up. And it went from being a segment to its own proper show on Tuesdays. And yeah, it was very DIY. And we used to so there's a big controversy in LA because somebody called the fire department because we were breaking fire code at that show every week. Like it wasn't any fun unless it was an 80 person room. Unless you got 150 people in there, it was not fun. Like we would pound the walls, and the comedians would stand in the back and kind of tell the crowd, because the roast battle crowd sometimes, well, you have to train them. You have to let them know what's a good joke. And that was like it was such a weird, like, speaking of punk, it felt that way. It was like a hot room with no ventilation, overpacked, like people screaming. Like me and a comic you should have on, Keith Carey, loves him some punk and ska, and he was a big part of Roast Battle all the seasons. And we used to like stand in the back, like if somebody had a bad joke, we would just be like, fucking boo in the back, like just monsters. Like it's comedians really letting their most evil impulses out. And the crowd loved it. And yeah, the wave just like organically showed up and started doing their thing. And because it was like the hot show to be on and get noticed in LA. I started doing it because the guys I came up with were really into it and they were really good joke writers. And so I challenged myself to do it. They like set me and this other comic up, April Lotcha. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about it is when somebody writes a joke about you that's like super mean but very true, and you feel extremely seen. So I say that like most of the people that have roasted me have outwritten me, but I go out there and I just act like your friendly hot auntie, just like, hey, everybody, and I started like even femme it up on stage because I can't like femme it up in my acts because I'm such a little goblin. But like at roast battle, I could do that. I could wear like a dress and like look super cute and that would even make it harder because they, again, comedy, like hotness rules for comedians. It's like we're in John Mayer called me a 4 once, a bunch of times. He was like, you're like an LA 4, so I'm not gonna like he's actually really nice off stage. But he was like, I'm not gonna vote for you. And that became like my fake, like, fuck you, Mayor, like a fake beef. And yeah, so like celebrities would show up and judge, and I've gotten to judge it a couple of times, and it was super fun, and I learned how to write jokes. And this is what I want to tell you. So one of the best jokes I think ever written about me in general was at the first my first roast battle. April said, Anna's fucked so many damaged men, her pussy's been named a service animal. And that is so real. When somebody says something like that, I would just stand back and just invite the wave on stage to do something, because they deserve the hype. Like they get to like that's so good. Keith had a really good joke about me on the TV show. And when people ask me, sometimes they'll be like, hey, can you help me punch up this roast joke? I think about this joke a lot. I'm not saying Anna's a desperate Mexican, but I did see her outside of Home Depot in a wedding dress. Right. And so like those moments where you're like, damn, like where it hits you in the core, it's like that it hits you in the core, and it's delivered with such care and with such research, like they really get to know you as a person. And I really enjoyed it. It was a really good, like, it was wild because I started comedy at 32, and 2 years into it, I was on a Comedy Central show. My brain was completely blown. And then shortly after, I just burnt out on it, and I've just never gotten back to it. But I do love the math of a roast joke. I will definitely like Madelano Martin, Fest friend. I made so many friends, like comedy friends at Fest. It's really cool. And Matt's one of those where it's like we can call each other anytime. And like he was asking me about roast jokes for a show he did, and I just like fired off like 10-15 of them. And it's like he was like, damn. And I was like, this is what I used to do. I mean, we'd be texting hateful jokes to each other 24/7. All the people that roasted, we were just like, and you would text somebody something completely, no context. You would just text them a mean joke and then about somebody else, and they would look at it and then you would just respond like fire. Like we had all these like vernacular to describe like how funny something was. And like, we would just laugh and it was it felt like such a cool indie thing to be a part of. And, I think it's like, it still holds strong. Like people still really like it. But it is interesting to kind of like watch it kind of ebb and flow. And I'm happy with all my friends who still do it, like good for them. But yeah, I just like, I hit a wall with it. I was like, ugh, I felt like I just called everybody ugly or fat or short or, whatever as many times as I possibly could. And I was like, okay, I got to start like writing jokes about, I got to work on my act. So, but yeah, I love me some roast battle. I love that you love roast battle.
Yes. Now, some years back, I did an article on this rapper named Dirtbag Dan, who was really involved in this. He was really involved in the YouTube rap
Mhm.
battle. Yeah, Grind Time, King of the Dot, all that. Yeah. So by doing this article, I really studied a lot of those videos and interviewed him and interviewed several people. And just to hear, like, they would do these battles and have like months to plan and write and research their jokes. Whereas is roasting, the comedy roasting, similar, where you're sitting there and trying to like research your opponent and learn these very specific things about their personal life so that you can turn them into roast jokes?
That's how I do it. Also, most of the roasters like battle rap. Little side note.
I actually found the Comedy Central roast battle to be very similar to that YouTube's the grind time stuff.
Yeah.
Like it has a very similar like cadence and feel to it.
Yes. Yeah, and and that's how we would do it in the belly room, and I think the best episodes of Roast Battle are the road twos or, like, the pre-shows where they show people in the different venues where they're, like, the belly room for us is, like, that was where it started, and so it felt very, like, it's a very low ceiling, very small, sweaty. I cannot describe it smells weird in there. It's great because it's right over the kitchen. So, it's right over the kitchen, so it's, like, hot. The floor is hot. Like, everything's hot up there. And, but yeah, I used to there are some roasters that were really into it that would do it, like, every 2 weeks. I need more time. I used to kinda schedule, like, a month out because what I would do is I would listen to every podcast that person had been on. I would watch every bit of media they had out. I would watch their jokes, and then I would write down kind of my own personal assessment of, what I thought was funny about them or what I thought was kinda, like, annoying about them, right? And then I would write down a list of facts and treat each one of those facts like, setups to jokes. And so, then I would sit down and I would just sorta, like, listen to a lot of rap music, and Attell albums. Attell is always one of those comedians, it's like he's very quick, so I would listen to stuff or I'd be at work, and I would just back in the day, I used to, like, vape nicotine, so I'd just drink coffee and vape nicotine and write, like, 80 hateful things at a time. And then I would, send the best of them to my friend, and then we would sit down usually and have a little writer's room because we really loved the, like, practice of it, and we would categorize each joke, and I would write about 80 to 100 jokes, which is way more than other people do. Roaster Robin Tran, she writes 5 jokes and then hones them like a samurai sword, just folding the syllables in on them until they're perfect jokes, which is probably a smarter way to do it. I write in
Robin is really good roaster,
mad
by the way.
genius, absolute
Yeah.
lunatic, and just one of the meanest, funniest people out of Orange County. And again, similar to like Punk, like, so I started in Long Beach, then Keith Carey started in Long Beach and Orange County. Robin's an Orange County comic. Connor McSpadden was Inland Empire, but played a lot in Orange County. We were all Olivia Grace. We were all friends, and we all went to the same mics and the same shows. We were always booked together. So it kind of gave us, like, again, like nerds that we were, it gave us our feeling of like, oh, we're doing something really indie and hardcore and like, it gave us our vibes around that. And so yeah, I write too many jokes and then I narrow them down to about 15. And then I would run them at mics and I would have to put them to memory. And then I would meet with another roaster, this guy, Doug Fager, and we would go over the jokes again, but more along the delivery lines because I was so afraid of my ADD. I had like unmedicated ADD and anxiety. So I was just always at the time, like always on the verge of running out of the room and nobody knew it. So I would really work on like how I delivered and, I was really scripted with it. And I know today it would be a much different situation. Thank you, Zoloft, you performance enhancing drug. Literally the best thing that's ever happened to my comedy. And like, yeah, I would work on like looking relaxed, like rolling my shoulders back, smiling. The best piece of advice, if you're a comedian listening to this and you like roasting, here's what I can tell you. Laugh at the jokes people tell about you. And ideally laugh genuinely at them. Like, really enjoy those jokes. Take the minute to understand that that person spent hours of their week thinking about you. Like, enjoy that for a second, because that helps the audience feel okay with making fun of you, and vice versa. It always helps to smile.
Now, something that I'm curious about, because I remember one time I saw this. I don't know if it was the documentary on Joan Rivers or was some interview with Joan Rivers, and it was about her, the roast. You know, the Comedy Central roast where they roast celebrities, and she was very upset before it and was just knew all the jokes were going to be about her being old or be about this and that, and she was like kind of, you know, felt like she was going to be hurt and didn't want to have to deal with all of it. And when you watch it, though, it's not how she doesn't let any of that.
Yeah.
She doesn't show any of that to the audience. But, you know, because comedians also are very sensitive. I mean, that's usually a part of being a comedian. Is it challenging to be in that space? Does it hurt? Like,
that's when I stopped. I was like,
it started to hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, when it started to hurt. And it only started to hurt because I was having some health problems. I had these I grew these really big fibroids. Women get them, and then it was why I had to have a hysterectomy. And I remember I had a doctor's appointment that day, and the doctor goes, it's probably not cancer, but it is structural. And anyway, we just have to like do an ultrasound. And I was like, I just looked at her and said, okay, well, just so you know, a 25-year-old is going to call me barren in about 6 hours for like 20 minutes. So I think maybe we could have worded that differently. and that was when I realized I was like, maybe I should take a step back from this. But yeah, I agree. I think that, I don't think, how do I explain it? I know a lot of maniac comedians who will lose like a loved one, like a parent, and then perform that night. I'm not that person. But there is something to letting the audience know you're okay. Because especially I tell really dark jokes about my person. I tell autobiographical jokes about my life that are very dark. And it's very important for me to show the humor that I find in those jokes, to like laugh with the audience and to bring them into why I think that is funny. And a lot of that has to do with like just remembering to smile, which when you're on tour and you've been like, okay, so this is like my 36th show in 28 days, and my brain is soup, and you have to kind of remind yourself, like, I can hear in a recording, I can hear if I'm smiling. Like it's just always important to me, especially because I have a very severe face. There are some comedians, like I love those like cute little girls that can do deadpan. I wish I can do, my jokes are funny deadpan, but I have a harsh looking head. I'm all angles. I got a nose with an elbow in it. I look like a bruja who is cursing herself. So I have to be very careful to be like, to show that there's joy and excitement, because I have joy and excitement. That's also true to who I am. Even when I'm tired, I'm like, man, I used to work at a drug rehab where people would throw pee at me sometimes. Like I've been bitten by clients. I've been swung at. Like I used to do really hard work, and now I live a life beyond my wildest dreams and do hard work on top of it, but I still live that life beyond my wildest dreams. And like that, to me, I can always like rally that smile. But I agree. I mean, Joan Rivers is the GOAT of just handling that stuff with ease when she was extremely sensitive about it. She was very sensitive about her body. Honestly, that's how comedians get funny. Usually, like I was the brown kid in Ione in the 90s was not the winery mecca that it is now. It was just meth shacks and correctional officers. And so I didn't see myself as like the hottest looking girl in town. And I think that like a lot of comedians feel that way. My friend Alex Cooper, he said this one time that somebody did a joke about his eyes being really far apart, and he just like stood and stared at himself in the mirror for a couple of days. It's like, how far apart are my eyes? And when I was roasting, I would dye my hair. You wouldn't. I'm all pretty much almost all gray now, and like I would dye my hair and I would contour my face and go out of my way to look like younger and cuter, and because it was harder to roast me, you know.
Yeah.
So, but the joke I always got is Anna looks like she's trying to be Selena, but she just looks more like the lady who shot her Yolanda. Like there was a lot of that, but yeah, I got really skinny during that time too. Like I was really skinny, and I think that I'm certain that the roasting had a little bit to do with that, you know, because there is those moments where like, you know, you're like, am I getting fatter? Wait a minute, that guy's shaped like a potato. Like he just called me fat. That man, no, that man, I could beat that. I could outrun that man. How dare he? You know what I mean? So there are those moments, but yeah, the important thing is don't let him see you sweat. If the joke hurt your feelings or it annoyed you, or, you know, it can get really easy to be like, yeah, I've heard that joke before, you know, well, the audience hasn't. So just deal with it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, you know, it's if you're in a salty mood or you're in a place where you can't emotionally handle it, like leave it. Trust me, there is some younger upstart comedian who's hungry for it and is going to want to embarrass themselves in front of those, you know, 80 drunk people at the Comedy Store. So don't worry. There's more where you came from. You don't have to do it forever.
Yeah, like I have like a large birthmark on my face, and it's not something I'm sensitive about. And it's not something I even think about much, but it's the thing that everyone notices about me.
Is that why there's no video on this podcast?
I'm not very sensitive about it. No, that's not the reason. But my point is, I'm sure that that's what would be the thing I would be roasted for. And it would be weird to have that constantly be a point of something that people are bringing up and insulting me about. Because it doesn't really, I don't think about it, but just to have it be in my head constantly, your face, your face, your face, your face. It seems like it would be a strange headspace to be in.
Yeah, there's a lot of slut shaming that at the time that was, and I think that's a harsh word for it. There's just a lot of joking about the sexual history of a woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, it's really funny because all those guys are like ska punk boys from other, you know, other parts of California. So they have like, they don't believe it. And I think that's the important thing to realize is like, I think some of the fans think like when you're telling those jokes, you're really just going for like the thing that's going to be true and funny to the audience. You don't believe that. I don't believe that my friend Keith is a big fat goblin person or whatever the things that we would say, or like fat shaming happens a lot. Yeah. So it's like a lot of stuff. It's the other thing about that period of time. I started comedy in 2014. I was roasting from 2015 to 2017. A lot has changed in media and pop culture where I don't think I can make those jokes anymore, like without being a little prepared to apologize. You know, like I think ethically, a lot of us have had to reevaluate our responsibility with our platforms, I think, which is the least fun roast statement to ever say. That's the point of roast battle is to say the taboo things and to be dicks about it, you know? And like, I think a lot of people, audiences included, have kind of like maybe grown out of that a little bit, but I know that they're still going strong, and I know a lot of like really funny roasters that are still doing it today, and there's still like a market for it. There's still folks that want to like laugh at the taboo together, and but yeah, it is like the most base material, you know. Like it is, I've written a joke about somebody's eyes being far apart from each other, like you know. You're not going to write. There's some folks like John Michael Bond is a great example. He writes very long, very intelligent roast jokes. And I'm like, with that man bun, you look like a butt plug. Like those are the things I say. Like I try to say them in an artful manner, but it is very like it isn't necessarily the smartest of joke telling methods sometimes. But when you hear a good, like super smart roast joke, you're like, damn. It's a thing of beauty because it's like there's even down to the syllables. Like, oh God, I'm so in the weeds. I'm so sorry, guys.
No, this is what we're here for.
Word economy, and this will relate back to martial arts. Word economy is very important to me. Like, I love word economy. Not everybody does. And in many ways, I have to sit down and like, okay, how can I expand this rather than retract it? But I love a joke that is just the fat is just cut right off of it. And roast jokes really capture that. And the same is true for like martial arts. A good, clean martial arts technique is not this big, crazy, floofy, arms flailing everywhere martial arts technique. It is usually what you're trying to achieve is economy of motion. And that's where all of your power and speed comes from, is by eliminating any extra movements in your body and delivering the maximum amount of impact with the minimum amount of effort. And at first, it's really hard to do that and you're exhausted all the time. And then 20 years later, you're doing something and you're like, man, I remember when this used to make me like shake and throw up. And now I'm kind of like bored, like, huh, all right, look at that. I know how to do that. Oh, sorry, kid. Didn't mean to hurt you, And so like, so I think that's how roasting, and I would always like kind of move on stage roasting like I was getting ready to actually like spar somebody. Because that kind of helped me get in my body and move a little bit. And I still do that on stage. I like before I go on stage, I usually stretch like I'm about ready to go fight the audience. Like I stretch like I'm getting ready for a kumite or something. I mean, listen, if you're not a blood sport house, what are you?
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, that is that's kind of the attitude I went into it with, is like, oh, you think you can embarrass me? My dad had a Mexican dad. You're not gonna out roast him. Yeah, you're not gonna out roast him. Like, oh, you think you're gonna embarrass me? I've been, I've had my butt kicked in front of tournaments full of people as an adult. Like, I've been a green belt in karate as an adult. Cringe. I fall down I swear to you, I just do martial arts so I can run into furniture and not bruise. That's really it. Like, I'm constantly falling, constantly making an ass of myself and laughing about it, So that's how I was always with roast battle. I was like, you think you haven't heard it? You haven't seen my friends in Orange County outside of a mic. They used to have this running gag where they called me a retired Muppet. So they were treating me like a retired Muppet who was working the streets. So they'd be like, they had this whole thing where they were like pimps. And they'd be like, you Muppet ass bitch. Ain't nobody want to touch that felt anymore. Look at you raggedy ass. Get back in your suitcase. Just out of the blue, And like, so I always, it takes a certain type of weirdo to really be into it. But yeah, it's a fun thing. You got to have fun doing it. You got to be able to take a punch, figuratively and metaphorically,
All right. Well, before we go, could you tell everybody the name of your upcoming special and if you happen to know when it'll be out?
I don't know when it should be out early next year. The album and the special will be called Murder Puss.
All right.
Murder Puss. One word, Murder Puss. If you listen to my stand-up, you'll know why.
You'll know why.
I have a body count and a body count.
So just follow Anna so you'll be the first one to be aware when the special's available.
Yeah, and you can find me at Anna V is Funny on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. My website is annavalenzuela.com. And come and check me out. And I love it if you find me because of this podcast.
Yes.
Tell me, because I will tell Adam and Aaron that you found me that way. I love it. I love it when people when I've guested on a podcast and people are like, I'm a Goods from the Woods fan, or I'm a Rad fan, or I'm a Lady to Lady fan. Like, I love that, because it makes everybody, because then I get to brag to my friends that they have fans, which is pretty cool.
Thank you for listening to In Defense of Ska. To support the show, sign up for our Patreon. Intro and outro music by Slow Gherkin from the EP Lives. Additional music by Dan P. and the Bricks. Please rate and review the podcast and tell a friend. Follow at In Defense of Ska on social media. The book In Defense of Ska by Aaron Carnes is available from Clash Books. Order it online. Chris Reeves of SPI is our editor. This is your co-host, Adam Davis of Omnigon, leaving you by saying ska now more than ever. Were you surprised by how tight Anna and I are? We're like buddies.
No, I'm not surprised, and I'm not even surprised that she thinks you're the greatest human that's ever lived. It's because you are.
So at least somebody does. Where'd you go?
I'm right here. I'm just thinking.
Just being quiet. This is the outro of the show.
I know, but it's hard not to think about how amazing you are.
Oh, you were just like looking off into the middle distance, thinking about how great I am.
Well, I was looking to the wall on my left where I have a bunch of Adam Davis photos.
Your shrine where you light candles before we do this show. But you know where else we light candles? You know where else we have a shrine?
Where?
Over on our Patreon, behind the curtain.
Oh.
Of course, they're the LED candles because we don't want to light this curtain on fire. But head back there. We had more conversation with our good friend Anna behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the shit talking that we couldn't do out in the open.
All the shit talking. Yes.
All the shit talking. So if you want to hear all the shit we talked, go sign up for the Patreon.
When you're done listening to our bonus content, go back and listen to our old episode with Folly we did. We talked about Folly so much this episode, you should probably refresh yourself on their history, which we got into back when we had them on the show.
Go back and listen to the Folly episode. Go back and listen to Brandy Posey's episode. Go back and listen to Fred Armisen's episode.
Go back and just listen to the podcast from episode 1 on. I mean, while you're at it. We're just going to stop there?
Yeah. I don't know why you're still going.
Chris, you decide where to end. If we should end there. Or if we should
this
end.
Is fine.
Yeah.
It's a whole other episode now. Hey, welcome to the next episode of In Defense of Ska. I'm your co-host.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You could turn $10 into $250. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/fan and use code FAN. That's code FAN at prizepicks.com/fan.
Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Sometimes during Christmas, something magical happens.
Hey, Cricket customers. The Max with Ads plan is included with the Cricket $60 unlimited plan at no additional cost. And this holiday season, Max is the one to watch when you're feeling festive.
Son of a nutcracker!
Cozy up to all the holiday classics, like Elf, 8-Bit Christmas, and the Harry Potter 8-film collection. Just log in with your Cricket username and password to experience Max on all your favorite devices. Phone plan streams and standard definition programming subject to change. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.